Good day, everyone, and welcome to Breaking Boundaries. This is a monthly podcast about our colleagues at Technip Energies who have stepped out of their comfort zones, faced challenges, and broken boundaries with their unconventional career paths. I am your host, Talumba Katawala, National Content and Public Affairs Manager in beautiful Mozambique. I have been breaking boundaries in my own way since joining Technip Energies, so much so that I'm even hosting this podcast now. Today, we have a member of the French Foreign Trade Advisory in Malaysia with 30 years of experience in EPC business of major international projects, mainly in the field of energy. She is a pioneer, much like her namesake, Valentina Tereshkova, the first and youngest woman in space. Anyone who knows her closely enough will describe her as an autonomous, adaptable, with a very good synthesis and decision-making capacity, always promoting safety, quality, and focus on the delivery of the vision and strategy. Please join me in welcoming Valentina Gabriel. Hi, Valentina. Welcome.
Hi, thank you very much, Talumba. This is really impressive and wow.
So, you have held quite a few roles in your career at Technip Energies, and your growth in these 30 years have been very unconventional. It was less of a straight line to where you are now and more of a zigzag path. How do you manage to go into all these roles that are so different from one another?
Well, I think that I never put boundaries on me on what I wanted to do. I really, in fact, express myself during my career, always in a very polite and respectful manner. What was really important for me was really to express my need, my wish. And I've been very, very lucky, I will say, with all my N+1 I had in my career. I've been very lucky to have people, good listener, and they gave me opportunities when there was one. And when there was an opportunity which was offered to me, I always took the challenge. I say, okay, why not? What do I have to lose? Nothing. So
Right.
I think this is really what helped me to move forward.
So, how did you get into the engineering field?
Well, because I was good at math and physics at school. And at that time, it was much easier for me to go in an engineering school rather than any other school.
And did you have like encouragements? Did you have any influences around you that pushed you to go there?
I would say yes and no. Yes, I had really strong encouragement from my parents. In fact, my parents were born during between the First World War and the Second World War, and my parents didn't have the chance to go to school as they wanted to. So when I was born, and this, I heard it all the time at home, is that yes, school education is a must. So I really received strong encouragement from my parents. And then I would say that at home, I didn't have any role model. However, and you mentioned it in the introduction, Talumba, thanks to my name, Valentina, so coming from Valentina Tereshkova, I knew that it was feasible for me to do something. And as a woman, I could do what I wanted to do.
Wow. Wow. So, I'm trying to imagine this, your career starting out. Were there, when you joined Technip at the time, um, were there other women in your department?
Yes, yes. In fact, so I'm graduated from chemical engineering, and at that time, in fact, most of the women in engineering department are in chemical engineering. But just to say that, and this is okay. Now, when I look back, it looks funny, but really, if it was happening today, it won't be funny at all. I remember one of my first interview have been told that there was a quota for women,
Mm.
but this didn't stop me. And when later on I received the offer from Technip, I accepted, you know.
All right. So that's kind of interesting to think about that, chemical engineering, mathematics, you use a lot of your natural given skills to start off your career. So you were one of the first women to go abroad back in '96. I think you mentioned that I imagine that being a super challenging start or adventure to start your career abroad. Can you tell me more about this experience?
When I first joined our company, so it was back in '93, and the first thing I told my N+1 at that time was that I wanted to have an experience abroad. So when he had this opportunity in '96, he asked me, "Okay, Valentina, do you want to go to Malaysia?" And I said yes, and I think this experience was the best in my life. It was really the first time for me to have this opportunity to go really abroad and spend time and meet a different culture. You cannot really meet people, when you are just traveling for 1 week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks. You don't have time to know people. So through this first experience, I really think it has changed my life, the way I was thinking. It has been really a turning point in my career and in my personal life.
Right, right. So I'm so glad things worked out for you, starting out really early on and being one of the first ones to go abroad. So the world is still a work in progress when it comes to gender equality. So every triumph is important. If you could have a magic wand, let's say, to change one thing right now that could help women, what would it be?
Trust yourself and be yourself. I think this is really, really important. We should not rely on other people to give us opportunity. Everything is within us.
Mm,
And second thing I will say is that don't try to act like someone you are not.
yeah.
It will bring you nowhere.
Right. That's sort of trust yourself as in have self-confidence. So to fix your self-esteem essentially. Um, so now that we have an ESG strategy and it's been widely communicated in the Technip Energies community, and the ESG roadmap was recently launched, what do you think about it?
I'm really, really, really happy.
Yeah.
An ESG scorecard is really a strong commitment as a company. And for me, our Technip Energies ESG scorecard is really the continuation of all the values we have been upload at a company level for many years.
Mm,
It really makes sense to me and is really well balanced. What I would like to say is that, and this is really something I would like to work on for each of our centers, is that the ESG scorecard does not only commit a company, but people who are working for this company. It is like values, When you join a company, you join company for values, for benefit, and as well what a company can bring to your future. And this is through the ESG scorecard.
right. So, I mean, I don't know if people can tell, but you are French. And your job at Technip Energies has led you to work with teams from very different cultures, Malaysians, Americans, Brazilians, Azerbaijani. How has this exposure influenced the way you work with people?
It has influenced me a lot. But Talumba, you are very, very nice because I know that I've got a very, very strong accent, I've tried to lose it, but I never managed. Anyway, that's me. So how it has influenced my way of working, I think that first of all, learning about different culture. Um, when you grow up in a country or within a certain education system, you grow up to think in a certain way. By being exposed to various culture, it really opens the way you think. It really as well think about bias. You
Mm,
know, when you think about diversity and inclusion, you start talking about bias, and most of the time, bias are unconscious.
right.
And when you have been exposed to various culture, you can better know yourself and your own bias. And
Right.
this is really important. You understand as well what may drive people in the way they are talking, in the way they are acting, and how you can build relationship.
Right. Right. So the people you work with obviously heavily influence your decision making. And could you tell me about an achievement you're most proud of that you've implemented?
If I go back 4 years ago, in 2018, when I joined Asia Pacific, one of the first things I mentioned to my team was that for me, it was really important to have the right and the proper work-life balance. And when I came here, I had the impression that, and what I saw is that people need to be present at the office. You know, they were leaving after the boss, sending emails over the weekend to show
Yeah.
that they were working. And I said, you know, this is not what I'm looking after. And I'm very proud that, in fact, I said that we have the right to disconnect.
Oh,
You have the right to go to home before boss.
wow.
You have the right to take leaves. And something as well where I'm very proud of is that in terms of flexi time, the right to, and I will say the opportunity to work from home.
Hmm.
In 2018, people were telling me, but you know, you need to have, we don't know the people, how they are going to work from home and so forth. I say, yeah, but you need to trust them. If you don't try, you will never know. We have been obliged to do it. And I will say this is thanks to the COVID and thanks to the lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
We have been obliged to go from one day to the other, from 100% at the office to 100% at home. And it worked. And
Right.
now the question is not anymore, can we trust our people? It's not anymore this one. We know we can. Now, what we have to make sure is that due to this new way of working, we have to make sure that we still have the right balance between work and home.
Right. Coming from a culture that it's very much, you have to be physically present. I think that's wonderful. And I think that gives your employees a lot more confidence in themselves and the fact that the company trusts is that they will deliver independent of where they are. And that sounds like, you've really made a huge impact. And naturally, we have to adapt to the changing times. And how are you able to get support to implement this?
Mm, I would say thanks to a speak up culture and have as a priority a trusted team. I made it clear to all the people reporting to me that the must for me was really to make sure that we were giving opportunity to people to do what they have to do.
Hmm.
And I will say that I put really the emphasis on a trusted team versus, if I could say, control freak attitude.
Right, right.
And what was as well important was that, okay, if it doesn't work, okay, it doesn't work, but there will be
Hmm.
no negative impact. Let's try. Let's do it. If we don't take a risk, we will never know.
Right.
And by trying, we have learned that it was feasible. And this is really, and I would say this is what has driven me as well in my career. It's never stop at the first hurdle, trust, try, and see.
I like that. Trust, try, and see. I like that. So it sounds like Technip Energies keeps you very busy, and running such a huge business unit's like it's a huge challenge. So how do you unwind? What are some of the recent books you've read? What music are you listening to? What's on your playlist?
What I'm doing outside work, I'm doing a lot of things, a lot of things. Here in Malaysia, I'm practicing a lot of sports. I'm doing a lot of hikes in the jungle. Before COVID, I was traveling a lot. I'm practicing yoga, meditation. This really helps me. And people who know me, they know that this is really precious for me. In terms of books, the last one I read is a French one, and the title is Les choses humaines de Karine Thuil. And this book really talked to me. It talked to me because it's about consent and respect between men and women.
Oh.
Consent concept is not always black and white, and you may have some gray areas from time to time. But really what struck my mind is that a no is a no. And this has to be very clear for everyone.
Right.
Now, in terms of music, I'm listening to lots of music, French one, international one, and so forth. And I can tell you that, in fact, at home, our TV is in fact, we hardly watch TV, but we are listening to radio. And there is one radio I really, really like in Malaysia. It's BFM.
Okay.
And if people from Malaysia are listening to me, I will really encourage them to listen to BFM. It's a very, very good radio.
So the way I see it, you have overcome challenges and have been successful in all your roles by standing up for yourself, speaking out, and not being afraid to ask for what you want. This is so inspiring to me. Is there any advice that you would give to our listeners that would help them thrive?
I would repeat what I said is really trust yourself and be yourself, and really listen to your inner voice. And something as well, keep learning. This is a must. And I will say, always enjoy what you do. If you start to see that your interest is lowering, question yourself. Go and talk to your boss or to your friends. You are your best advocate. Don't wait for the other one to decide for you.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, time for our signature question. With so many questions, there's still one more. So, what is the biggest boundary you have broken in your life? Or let's say, what comfort zone have you stepped out of, personal or professional? And how has that impacted your life or the lives of the people around you?
Maybe in terms of breaking boundaries, I will say two. On the professional point of view, was effectively to move to Malaysia in 2018 with my family to take first the position of head of operation and then after the head of the region. This was really a breaking boundaries for me. And on the personal point of view, it's when I became a scuba diving instructor.
Wow.
In fact, I would say through my career and the various things I've been doing, I was doing sports, but always relying on my brain. And when I decided to become a scuba diving instructor, I had to go from very tough course and dive in very harsh condition, cold water, current, and so forth. And I managed to do it. And I realized that if I wanted to do something, and if I was exercising for it, I could do it. And this really gave me confidence in myself that I should never give up.
Right. Wow. Wow. So from leading a huge business unit to scuba diving instructor to so many things, you are really a boundary breaker, Valentina. So this it's just been a really great pleasure to talk to you and to get to know you better. And I know that most of the time, some people seem like so far away, but I think through this conversation, you sound like someone I know. And it's so wonderful to hear you say those things about trusting your inner voice, believing in yourself, keep learning. Those are things I will certainly take for myself and implement in my day to day. So thank you so much for this conversation. It was a really great pleasure.
Thank you very much, Talumba. And I would like to say that you have a beautiful country. I had the opportunity to go to Mozambique
Wow.
almost 15 years ago. I spent some time in Maputo, and
Wow.
I've got a very, very good memory of Maputo. We went there, in fact, by our own with my husband, and it's really, I really enjoyed it. And we went there. In fact, we wanted to go diving, scuba diving,
Yeah, yeah.
spent almost a full week discovering Maputo Museum and traveling around, and we really enjoyed it. We were by our own, and you have a
Oh.
wonderful country.
Oh wow, wow. That's wonderful to hear that you've been there. So you have an open invitation to come and scuba dive again whenever you want to.
Thank you very much.
All right. So thank you everyone for listening today. In the future, we'll have more episodes with other inspiring people at Technip Energies and conversations on how they broke boundaries to become successful. And I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. One last word, listen to your inner voice, and you are your best advocate. Words from Valentina Gabriel. Thank you.